The first reading mentions how culture and communication are interlinked tightly, as communication enables individuals to develop and communicate the markers of culture. Introduced in the reading would be the circuit of culture's 5 variables: representation, identity, production, consumption, and regulation, detailing the interconnection of a cultural text. Also introduced would be the 6 dimensions to classify cultural principles: power distance, individualism versus collectivism, masculinity versus femininity, uncertainty avoidance, pragmatic versus normative, and indulgence versus constraint. In the next section, we talk about semiotics, a powerful tool for helping to understand and interpret how meaning is constructed and deconstructed in messages. Codes are also critical to the understanding of semiotics because all signs need to use codes to encode and decode a sign. Signs and sign systems can be viewed in different ways, along with the 2 different fundamental views of communication. Stuart Hall argues that any piece of info can be encoded in multiple ways, and every message has more than one meaning, making communication constructed culturally, and audiences have become more dispersed, with users acting as senders and receivers. Next, symbolic interactionism is concerned with the construction of identity within a social context and has many components, including dramaturgy, a perspective on identity that employs a theatrical metaphor to explore issues of identity, formation, and reformation. Also assuming a place, a moment, and an audience to whom the identity is being presented. We also look at interesting fandoms such as bronies, adult fans of My Little Pony, and how the media produce and transmit ideas about gender which impact our own view of men and women and ultimately lead to discrimination and hierarchies. In encoding and decoding, Stuart Hall argues that mass communication research has conceptualized the process of communication in terms of a circulation circuit or loop, where messages and signs are encoded and decoded based on the audience's perceptions and beliefs. We're also introduced to denotation and connotation, the critical aspects in understanding how a text is interpreted and received. Denotation refers to a literal meaning of a sign, while connotation refers to the emotion that derives from the sign. Episode 5 of Who Trolled Amber talks about Johnny Depp's relationship with Saudi Arabia, and they mention the similarities leader Mohammed bin Salman and Depp have as they both feel they faced mistreatment by global media. They describe the relationship between bin Salman and Depp as a friendship. The episode ends with a shift of focus to Johnny Depp's lawyer, Adam Waldman. When looking at the 6 cultural dimensions, the United States scored a 40 on power distance, which emphasizes the popular liberty and justice for all American motto. Even with the focus of equal rights and opportunities in American society, there are still many instances where this idea is challenged, and sports is an example of one of them. However, when there's an inequality, there's an opportunity for concerns to be voiced and changes to be made. In the NFL, there are 15 full-time female coaches this season, the most the league has ever had, and an increase of 25% from 2021. The NFL has 4 women officials, the most the league's ever had, with Sarah Thomas being the first woman to officiate a Super Bowl in 2021. Last year, in the MLB, 43 females held coaching positions, the most in MLB history. With these numbers seeming small, they're breaking down the barriers previously held up and are heading into a positive direction. Media Studies Section 50 mentions that media of all sorts, such as films, magazines, news, ads, speeches, and books, produce and transmit ideas about gender which impact on our own view of men and women and ultimately lead to discrimination and hierarchies. This can really challenge and undermine the impact and progress made by trailblazers, often adding on to the discrimination as we see online towards these trailblazers and women athletes. Now, let's go back a little bit to Sarah Thomas, the first female to officiate a Super Bowl. This is an example of a symbolic sign, as it shows the women discrimination barrier starting to be broken. What about Becky Hammon becoming the first female acting coach in an NBA game? Former Marlin GM Kim Ang becoming what is believed to be the first woman hired to be the general manager position by any of the professional men's sports teams in America? All of these trailblazers are symbolic signs, showing the barriers of false consciousness that sports are male-oriented are starting to be broken down. As I mentioned in my last episode, the that women athletes face more online harassment than male athletes in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. When you're a significant figure, especially when making history and becoming a trailblazer, people are going to come after you online. The same can be related to Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. We all know about the trolling Amber Heard faced while in trial, but in episode 5 of Who Trolled Amber, it is said that Depp also felt like he was being mistreated by the media. Mistreatment can really affect someone's mental health. We saw it affected Holly Bradshaw, the British pole jumper, and here it's affecting Depp, making him feel isolated and forced to reach out to someone who's been in this situation before. And in this case, it's the Saudi leader Mohammed bin Salman. Overall, this shows how powerful the media really is, the narratives that can be shaped from it, and the effects it can have on people. In the end, we see examples of women breaking down barriers and continuing to lead in the fight for equality within the sports industry. Even though the numbers may seem small, it's a step in the right direction. With fights for equality come targeted attacks online, which can really affect someone's mental health. As a country, we have to come together and eliminate the ongoing discrimination.